Hello again, my friends. Um, I'm back on my Mac. My Dell Windows computer wasn't working out, and I don't know if it's the computer itself or ancillary bits and pieces of hardware. Back in the day, computers were or laptops were not so flat, and they had room on the computer itself to plug in an Ethernet cable, let's say. And then a little later, you had a docking station. Well, now you don't even have that. You have this piece of hardware that has a lot of ports in it, and it connects to one port in your computer. And that it works the same for Macs and PCs. All this so-called progress doesn't seem like progress to me because it well, additional problems have come with it that we didn't have before. So those are my complaints against computer manufacturers, for what they're worth. It causes me unnecessary inconvenience and grief, and it does you too. And I'm not just being a Luddite. Okay, well, enough about that. This video is the first one in a little series, short series, about why trust Elena Danaan, or why I trust her, why I think anyone can and probably should. And this is really important. I mean, the overall subject is very important, and this particular video is very important to me. It is a matter of mm, principles, honor, ethics. So, and I've come into conflict with people that it surprised me and disheartened me that I came into conflict with them because they didn't see my point about ethics that I'm going to make in this video. Yeah, well, I won't go into all that. It's a big subject, and I could get a little bit emotional about it, but I won't. All right. So Elena is a druid, or druidess, if you wish to use a gender-specific term. But I'll just call her a druid, applying it to males and females. She's an initiated druid. And I went through the OBOD initiations as far as step one, being initiated as a bard. And if you doubt me, I don't have a certificate showing that, but I could get you in touch with my druid teacher who initiated me in California. I don't remember the exact year, 2007, maybe? No. No, it was before that. 2003. Yeah, probably 2003. All right. So anyway, some time ago. And I moved on from studying Druidry to studying other things, which happens sometimes. Elena stuck with it, and Elena became an ovate and then a druid. So that's step three, level three, top level. You can't really go any farther in Druidry than becoming a druid, although you can, you know, gain certain privileges, and there was a chief druid. Elena never sought, I guess, to be the chief druid. Um, and they had a perfectly good one. Anyway, but it's a serious thing to be a druid. This is something that one goes through. I think I can speak authoritatively from experience because of a serious interest and a belief that it makes you a better person to go through it. And it's almost something I'd like to go through again, having lived another 20 years or so, right? And who knows, I might go all the way to full initiation as a druid if I did it again. So this is a personal connection I have with Elena. I understand the druid thing, okay? Well, I wrote an email to my friends who are on my email list, and there's an article online about it's from adruidway.com. So everybody's druid way, if they're a druid, is unique and personal, but it's also a druid way that they share with whatever druidic organization, denomination, you might call it, they belong to. And then beyond that, with druids of other stripes, so to speak. But anyway, this is a piece of advice from ancient times, from the druids. Let your speech be words of good counsel to others. Write runes of wisdom. Sing as epically as you can. That's lovely. Deserve praise. Test and expand your judgment while holding nothing back each day. Live each day to the full, in other words. So I'm going to read that again, okay? Let your speech be words of good counsel to others, not other stuff, which is less useful, all right? Let your speech be words of good counsel to others. Write runes of wisdom. Sing as epically as you can. Deserve praise. Test and expand your judgment while holding nothing back each day. Does Elena live by that? I think Elena learned to live by that. I think she embraced it. I think she, I don't know, if she's ever read that exactly, but that is Druid philosophy. So if she took it seriously, she would read that as I did and say, that's really good advice. That's what people should do if they're trying to be the best human being that they can. So I asked the questions. Who does that? Do I do that? You know, when I encounter something like that, I don't say, I don't look at all my friends and point the finger and say, is he or she doing that? I mean, I might eventually do that to an extent, but the first thing that comes to my mind is, do I do that? Can I improve in some aspect of it? Sure, I probably can, but it's the sort of thing that I would write on a piece of paper and tape it to my bathroom mirror so I get to read it every day, right? So I would take it, I would take that as a description of a partial answer to the question, who is Elena Danaan? Who is Elena Danaan? Now, the second thing is something from her own website. There's an article about what it means to be a druid, basically. And this expresses Elena's values. So there's a druid's oath on the website, and I want to apply this to myself. So I've reworded it a little bit for me. corrected the grammar, if you will, um, it's not important. I mean, whatever grammar works best for the person writing it, reciting it, swearing the oath, or whatever they do with it is fine. But this is my version. And it says, my actions are guided by love, and my weapons are activated only to defend the truth. It actually says my sword will be, or is drawn, or will be drawn only to defend the truth. But my weapons are activated only to defend the truth. My tongue is clean and always speaks the truth with clarity. My heart will, it is, I'm going to put this in present tense. I actually have it written here as future tense, but that's not ideal. My heart is brave and faithfully serves the cause of truth. I am truth. In truth I stand. In truth I speak. In truth I serve, says Elena Danaan, maybe in slightly different words in terms of it actually doesn't have the verb of being in there. It's implied in the version she quotes on the website. My actions be, be. So my actions be guided by love, meaning may they be, may they consistently be, may they always be. My sword be pulled only to defend the truth. My tongue be clean and always speak the truth with clarity. So you can also command. You can say, may it be so. My actions be. Hey, actions, I want you to be, always be guided by love and so on, right? So that's another partial answer to the question, who is Elena Danaan? Now, there are people out there that say, oh, she's lying, or oh, she's just parroting nonsense, that came from somewhere. Maybe she's delusional, maybe she's, who knows, right? But we're not to believe what she says. Well, whoever says that is dishonoring her and libeling her. And you'd better be sure that you know what you're talking about when you do that to somebody. That's my ethical issue. It's too easy to dismiss what somebody says, right? You may not agree with them. You may, let's say you're talking to two, or let's say I'm a scholar. I'm a scholar. I've studied a subject, studied the literature on it, and I've reached certain conclusions about it. And then there's another scholar on the same subject matter, and he or she disagrees profoundly with me. And so we could have a debate about the subject matter, right? Now, each of us has a community of students and followers and worshipers or, you know, disciples. And, you know, there are private discussions. There's a forum somewhere or there are Zoom meetings and people discuss things. And so after this debate, you have certain people on my side that show up and they say, George, you're the best scholar on that subject ever, and that other person is full of beans, and they're a con artist. They're deliberately deceiving people, and they should be censored and censured, and bad things should happen to them. So, what do you think I'm going to do? Am I going to say, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, that person's a real piece of work, aren't they? No, I'm not going to do that. No matter how profoundly I disagree with them, they don't deserve that kind of bashing unless we can prove it, right? It's quite possible in a lot of areas of study to come up with different conclusions from the evidence. And personal biases play into that, prior beliefs. inclinations towards certain philosophical positions and all that sort of thing. There's a huge context, and we don't even know what all of it is. What is it that makes my brain and my memories and my experiences different and prejudice me differently than somebody else? Am I completely free from bias? No. Neither are you, and neither is he, and neither is she. And do your biases make you an evil person and make you a con artist? No, they don't necessarily, right? In and of themselves, they do not. So I don't really have any patience for anybody that wants to glibly and easily simply say, well, you know what? I used to believe kind of like that years ago, but I grew up and I don't believe it anymore. And because she's saying similar things, I think she's full of beans and she's just making it up and she's stupid and she's, blah, 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 blah. She's misleading people. Yeah. Well, she may be misleading people if what she's saying is incorrect, but it's kind of hard to say. uh, to explain how it could be incorrect because she says, you know, I'm the emissary for the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and I'm in regular communication with highly placed people in that organization. Thorhan Eridion, who works for the High Command of the space fleet in our solar system, and Admiral Ardana, who's Thorhan's boss. And she says, I'm also friends with Prince Ea of the Anak Empire, or in other words, Enki the Anunnaki, who, by the way, is something like, I don't know, 500,000 years old by now or something. He's physically immortal. Well, believe it or not, right? I mean, Elena believes it. Elena's 100% on board with it. She's met these people. She knows them. She has reincarnational, or let's say past life memories of her very long history with Ea and with Thorhan. She's known them through many lifetimes. And who are you and who am I to say that's not true? You know, she's a lovely person, and I would probably trust her with my life, because I've assessed her. You get to know somebody, even if you don't get to interact with them personally, you see who their friends are, how they interact with their friends. You know who their enemies are, and you see how they treat their enemies. And you get to know these people, you get to know their standards, their ethics, whether they're honest or not. So, somebody said in an interview, well, there are a lot of people that almost practically worship Elenia. I don't practically worship her, but I do believe she tells the truth. And I do like her. I even love her. Okay. She's beautiful and elegant and usually very well spoken. And I know something of her history and I know I can see how she presents herself. And I don't know, it comes across as very sincere to me. Okay. So let's focus on these evidences of her integrity, her being a druid, and what being a druid means, and the oath of truthfulness. I am truth. I stand in truth. I speak the truth, and I serve the truth. I don't think she would say those things lightly. I don't think she would say them in a self-perjuring manner. So anybody that attacks her, is putting themselves in a precarious position, and they're threatening themselves in a sense, um, in that, well, to lose a measure of respect for me because of what they're doing and the way they're doing it. Okay. Because a particular way goes with that sort of attack. The way and the action are inseparable, and I don't approve of it, and I don't like it, and I won't participate in it. Or if I do, please call it to my attention, and I'll self-correct very quickly regarding whomever, right? Um, so there's one little thing I would add. Let's see, my actions be guided by love, my sword be drawn only to defend the truth, and embracing that which and those who are innocent and worthy. That means defense of the truth embraces defending the interests and the reputation of those who and that which are innocent and worthy. So that's my little addition. Now, Elena, to my best understanding, is innocent and worthy. So I'm duty bound because of my love of truth to defend her. Okay, I presume that I've made myself very clear. She says in this article about the oath, as we receive the wand to open the ways magically, and the sword to shape the world, an ultimate oath we must take. For without this oath, the tools are not given. This is this is the oath of truth, for with power comes responsibility. She has a measure of power. She has the power. The power was granted her to speak the words an organization that is itself powerful. You know, um, well, anyway, so responsibility obviously comes with that responsibility to speak the truth and to accurately convey what she's being told and what she's supposed to tell us, right? That's her job. So I was going to say, if you remember, well, you I don't know if you've watched it, but in Bertie Jaworski's remote viewing of the drones, the New Jersey drones, or they're not just in New Jersey, they're all over. But in her remote viewing session, she said the drones, which are sentient, sent a message. And the message was, you cannot stop us, but we can stop you. So that's a lot of power. Even the drones, which are like, think about like bees as drones, right? So there are these little bees and they're being controlled from a central source, like a queen. And they're not biological beings, but they have intelligence and they have a degree of individuality. And so they're buzzing around and they're saying, you cannot stop us, but we can stop you. And who are they talking to? Well, they're talking to military people, and those military people are serving whom? Well, the deep state, right? So this is a statement of power. The deep state has run roughshod over the people of this planet for how long? Thousands of years. And their power is waning. And our ET family came to our aid. Our father, Enki, he calls himself the father of the human species. Not that he created us per se, but he had quite a lot to do with our development into that which and those whom we are today. And he guided and protected when we were under attack by his half brother, Enlil, which I won't go into. But anyway, um, they view us as family. This is why the presumption that the universe is a dark forest, or if there are superior ETs, they won't do anything to help us. It's not true. And we can argue, well, your beliefs are nonsense. And the other person can come back and say, well, no, your beliefs are nonsense. Not that that kind of argument does any good, but, you know, I guess it's a divisive issue, friends. I wrote here a couple of other bits of analysis about this oath. My presumptions about it. The oath would be taken to whom? Who do you take the oath to? Do you take it to oneself and all aspects of the living and non-living world, especially whomever it may concern, but also embracing all who and that are nominally unconcerned. So it's a basic orientation of the self in the fabric of reality, in toto. It's very, 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 very profound. Now, who do you take the oath before as your witness? Before all that I hold sacred, whether personalized or not. It could be a personal God or something very impersonal. The universe and the love that flows through it and binds it all together. And all who or that, everything. So we're animists. Well, maybe you aren't, but I am. Elena is. So you could say all that, every rock, every crystal, every flowing stream, every bird and every bee, and so on, that hears one pronounce the oath, including the ultimate and the all-powerful source, God, the great all-encompassing consciousness from which the universe descends and is emanated and created. So what is this oath? I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Yeah, it encompasses that, but it's more and bigger and better, right? So the Druid's oath stands as a demand to the reader, the listener, the observer, to grant credibility to the emissary and her testimony of facts. And if one falls short of doing this, it dishonors her and it dishonors that she represents, namely the Galactic Federation of Worlds and the Intergalactic Confederation and the Anach Empire. You're taking on some people you really don't want to make angry. Now, if some little human says, "Oh, I think it's all a bunch of nonsense," is that going to make them really angry? No, they'll go, "It's okay. We have a lot of patience. You'll see soon." Anyway, um, but it actually will be easier and better for us in the long run to be open-minded. I'll just put it that way. So, all right, that's about all I have to say on this subject. Um, I think, I think that's about all. I had something in my mind to look up and talk about that's very closely related to this, but I believe this will do. So there's a lot of other evidence. I'm not going to say we have to believe Elena just because of this, but it is a compelling reason, and it's the most bedrock reason, the most bedrock reason, in my opinion, right? It's not only that she's not lying, it's not that it's also that she would never lie. It's not that she's interpreting hallucinations or delusions or whatever you want to call it, some kind of fiction that she's taking it too seriously and propounding it as fact. She's very aware of the difference between fiction and fact. She's written some fiction books about elves. Now, it's not to say that elves don't exist. They definitely do exist, just in fourth density Earth, not third density Earth where we live. But there's some travel back and forth. And that's another subject. Um, anyway, she's written that, and she's also written some truthful books. A Gift from the Stars, her first book about being an emissary, when she came out and said, I have stuff to tell you that comes from the Galactic Federation of Worlds. And she's written other books since then. She wrote The Cedars, about the true history of Earth and humanity, not some myth coming from ancient scriptures, which pulled bits and pieces of truth and massaged them so that the people of the time could understand what they were saying, which kind of dumbs them down quite a lot. So if we're inheriting that and we're believing it explicitly as truth, we're dumbing ourselves down to an extent relative to what the people who know and who can express it in terms that modern people can grok, which actually is a lot more grokking of various things than people in the past were capable of, although they had their strengths too, and probably were capable of understanding some things that we don't understand very well. But let's take the best. We don't have to take the whole hog, lock, stock, and barrel of what was given to us mythologically, no matter how great the myth makers were. But we can take the best of what they told us, and that can be clarified by the explanations given by Prince Ea and by the Pleiadians and others. Okay, there are plenty of others. There are Andromedans and Arcturians and people who are helping us in particular ways, but from a distance, and they're not doing the hands-on thing like the Galactic Federation and the Intergalactic Confederation. So there are different perspectives, and they're all harmonious, but they can add different details to what we know. So, in my opinion, like until recently, I was, let's say, following explicitly a myth that was derived by a modern scholar from ancient writings, which are fragmentary in nature. So in order to make a complete narrative, things had to be added at the judgment of the writer, the modern writer. And that judgment may not have been entirely correct. There's a part of it that says something about the moon being emanated from the body of the Earth at some point in the past. That's not true, according to the ETs. Our moon that we have now is a planet that was hollowed out and turned into a spacecraft and was brought into orbit and set in its position artificially. It didn't happen by natural processes. And it is not from our solar system. It's not of the same substance as the Earth. So if the myth says it's a part of her body, the Earth's body, that was sort of budded off, no. You can't have it that way and have it the other way too. So you're going to have to choose who to believe. And okay, so I've made my choice. I chose to change my mind, because I always looked at that myth as the best thing we've been able to come up with from, the body of knowledge we inherited from our ancestors. When we get a body of knowledge from advanced ETs, that's a whole other ballgame. That's something completely different, isn't it? And if they're benevolent and if they're telling the truth, we ought to listen to them and say, oh, okay, well, I used to believe that because that was the best thing I had to work with. And now I have this, and this is pretty cool. And this has got lots of understandable science and spirituality wrapped around it, which trumps what we had before. That's not unreasonable. That's not, it's not, it's the word blaspheming or something. No. I mean, people can look at it that way, but that's just religious fanaticism if you think that way, right? So, have I worn out all the points? I think I have. Okay, so I'll let you go, but I would almost suggest going back and listening to this again from the beginning. Listen to it again. You know, I don't often suggest that about things I talk about, because I don't think I have profound wisdom to share. Or maybe I do, who knows? But I don't go down the path of presuming and assuming that I do. But I just want to tell you that the points I've made in this video are super, super important. And you either need to get on board with me or say, bye. I'm going to go off and pay attention to somebody else, which is fine. But yeah, when I say get on board with me, you don't have to feel exactly the same as I do about this. But please get the point that this is important. Yeah. And so what I hope it will do for anybody that listens to it is prompt them to hold their minds open enough to consider other evidence that comes in. And I'm going to talk about that other evidence in near future videos. Okay, so I won't go into it now. There are different lines of evidence, and I'll probably take one line in one video and another line in the next video. And if there are more than two, then another one after that. I can think right now of two primary lines of evidence that I want to talk about. So, on that note, I look forward to talking in your direction again soon. And another thing I want to say before I conclude very quickly is I want to bring some other people on into a Zoom meeting and we'll talk as a panel. And I don't really anticipate having a debate with somebody that, for whatever reason, is against all of this. But people who are a little bit skeptical, sure. People who have questions, sure. And either I can answer those questions, or if I can't right now, right here, or whenever they're asked of me, that gives me a task to go find out the answers. And when I find the answers, I'm talking about the answers that basically come through Elena, but then that takes us to another step, which is even though I believe her, okay, whatever she says, I'm really inclined to, I might not believe it 100% right away, but I'm inclined to take it seriously and give it a lot of thought, okay? And I probably will end up believing it eventually, but I have to work through my prejudices and my biases and the alternative things that I've believed and figure out what's really going on. And that's good. It's not I'm not a person who just says, "Oh, I love this paradigm. I'm going to be attach myself to this philosophy or this religion or this paradigm, this worldview." Okay, and then suddenly something else comes along, and it's like shiny object syndrome. Oh, well, I'm tired of that one. That looks kind of cool. I think I'll go jump on board with that one. Yeah, for a year or two or 10 years or something. No. Um, that's not how I operate. Some people might look at my life and superficially think that that's the way it works, but nope. Um, it's definitely a process. And one can change, and one's mind changes, and one's heart is affected, and one feels differently about things in the light of a new paradigm. That always happens. And that can lead to conflicts with people that are still, tightly bound to the old paradigm. Well, that's okay. We can either agree to disagree or we can agree to go our separate ways. That's just the way it has to be. And I can love people that I can't stand to be around in some cases, right? I don't really hold a enmity for anybody who's sincerely trying to do what's right. And what is that? Well, it's part of what's right is figuring out what's right. Having an opinion or a position, or certain values, and a degree of tolerance for that which flies in the face of your values, or a degree of intolerance for it, I should say. Um, hmm, hmm, put that down. I was holding on to something and it turned out to be a mysterious object with moving parts and things. And no, it's distracting. It would be more graceful of me if I didn't even talk about it, right? So thank you for listening. I hope you look forward to considering more evidence. And I will show up to bring it to your attention and to discuss it with certain people. Now, I had a little email exchange today that ended up with one of my friends who's not necessarily completely on board with all of this, but who finds it interesting, volunteering to be in a Zoom meeting with me and having a chat about these matters. It's going to happen, friends. It's going to happen. And I couldn't be more pleased. And this is going to develop. We're going to have interviews eventually with some high profile people, but you need to go out and get all your friends to come join, subscribe to the channel, so that we have lots of views and all that sort of thing. I could go to somebody who's prominent in some field and say, I want to interview you. And you look at my channel and see that I have 10 subscribers and say, nah, maybe I'll wait a year or so until you get more people watching your channel. So help me out if you can in that regard. Say, hey, come listen to this lunatic talk about ETs and stuff. All right. So on that note, yeah, if you're listening to this for the first time, I invite you to subscribe. I invite you to like. I invite you to tell your friends. I invite you to hit the bell so that you get notifications. So I've done my duty encouraging you to do all that, and I'm going to get lost now for a while. So thank you for your patience and hope you enjoyed it. Talk later.